If you've ridden behind a steam train in the United States, you most likely were riding behind an engine with its own dedicated tourist railroad or museum. Mainline steam trips are unfortunately rare these days. However, down in Australia, there's one unique outfit that doesn't have its own dedicated railway: the picnic train. What's up guys, this is Heiss, and today we're going to talk about one of the singular coolest railway operations in the world and what makes it work. The premise is simple, but the way it works is unlike anything else. Simone, the director of the picnic train, can explain it best.
I think the best way to summarise the picnic train is actually the name picnic train. So the whole idea is that you come along with your friends and family, bring a picnic and just enjoy yourselves together. And that's the whole vibe of our organisation. We want people to enjoy the heritage and enjoy spending time together and just have a relaxed time. And I think especially during COVID, people really missed that getting together time. And so I think in the last couple of years, we've seen a really popular resurgence of having family picnics and get-togethers, and where better to do it than on a train?
While the name and concept, having a picnic on a train, might sound unremarkable, the way they operate is remarkable. Today's adventure was a set of excursions out of Australia's capital, Canberra. Yes, that's how it's pronounced. Yes, it's spelled differently. Australian pronunciations are challenging. These excursions were behind R766. This isn't a tourist railway, it's just part of the Australian rail network. And it was just where the picnic train was running when I visited. A few weeks prior, they ran out of Junee, and a few weeks later, they were running at Thirlmere. Have train will travel, as it were. They own the equipment, and they get to bring it all around New South Wales for excursions.
So the organisation really is a multi-campus kind of a setup. So we don't really have a home, but we have lots of places that we operate out of, and it makes for much more excitement for the volunteers because we get to go to different places and see different places and meet different people. But it also means that we do need to have very good logistics. So as part of that, over the last couple of years, we've really built up our fleet. So we've tried to get a bit more steam locos, a bit more diesel locos, some more rolling stock, and of course sleeping cars, dining cars, all those sort of things that go with running a logistical, not nightmare, but you know, yeah, nightmare.
Oh, well, we like to get the sleeping car train experience going, and then as well as the dining. We've done a couple of dining cars, and that was because of a trip we did to the States. Seeing the people down there in Tennessee and Colorado, dining on all the trains down around those locations. It was really great to see. They're the things we're really looking forward to, and giving people the experience to dine on trains and sleep on trains with a steam engine on the front.
The equipment they operate is primarily 1930s heritage passenger cars, and at this time, one of two steam engines, either the 5917 or R766. Today's excursions were pulled by R766, an absolutely brilliant 464 Hudson, originally built for the Victorian Railways in the early 1950s by the North British Locomotive Company of Glasgow. R766 is one of the several R-Class Hudsons that is operated in the Preservation era, but it is unique in that it's the only standard gauge one, and one of two that burns oil.
I was just going to make a mention of the Victorian slander we regularly engage in.
Victorian slander?
Victorian slander, like the time when they said, "Don't you love that Victorian Railways locomotive?" And then I held up the armrest. State Rail Authority of New South Wales,
Yeah.
on the vital.
It was a Victorian engine one day, but it was broad gauge.
No, it is the narrow gauge R class, the best kind of R.
Yeah, it's narrow
Hashtag
gauge.
broad gauge slander. Hi, Victorians.
Victorian Railways was primarily a 5-foot 3-inch gauge railway, and as such, the R-Class locomotives were all built to that gauge, with the possibility of regauging in mind. The R-Class is a beast, all put together weighing in just shy of 420,000 pounds, with 6-foot 1-inch tall drivers and 32,080 pounds of tractive effort. On the day of my visit, they ran 3 round-trip excursions between Canberra and Bungadore, and invited me along for a cab ride on the second run, which was spectacular. The noise and power from this big 464 was incredible to experience from the cab. And what's more was the speed. There were a few stretches of the run where they got to run at 80 kilometers per hour, which is 50 miles an hour. That doesn't sound quick if you're driving on an interstate highway, but when you're being bounced around with the throttle on the ceiling, it's incredible. I thought for sure my GoPros would be down on the track side with how much the engine was doing the dance, but thankfully they held on. This was the fastest I'd ever been in a steam locomotive for, by far, and it was an incredible experience I won't forget. It was also really cool to experience more oil burning things up close. I've read and heard about all things oil burning and fired oil once, albeit briefly, but this was working an engine a lot harder, and it was cool to experience. Watching them sand the flues and seeing the fire lick around the edges of the door as the draft changed in the moment was really cool. And also seeing how one little control change on the fireman's end could make a big difference was interesting. Very different than burning coal, of course. On the third trip of the day, my Australian host Rex was doing a firing trial, and I got to watch him light off an engine after it had sat between runs, and I also got to see him learn how to fire oil, which was cool and meant that I learned a couple things too.
Pour kerosene on the end of that. Now light it.
Fire hot.
Fire hot.
Cool. Now put it in the hole, and you basically want to go in and kind of across to the left a bit. Here, turn on your atomizer and bring it up to about 20.
Yeah. That's open.
Yep, bring it up to about 20, yep. Now bring your oil up to about 1 or 2 notches above idle. It's not going to do anything, you're just getting it set, you don't have to worry about it. Yep, just one. Now open your oil tap. Yep, now bring your atomizer up and hold it across to the left. So bring your atomizer up to about 50. Yep, and bring it across to the left and move it around. Yep, that's it. Now put it back in the hole, pull it out, nice and quick. It'll be on fire, that's fine. Put it up the end of the hole you got it from. Straight. Good. Shove it in the hole. Shove it in the hole. All the way. It'll go out. Yep. Beautiful. Now go check
Somebody gave me fire!
Cooler than the R class, though, were all of the people involved with the picnic train. It is such a wonderful group of dedicated volunteers who make this thing happen, and they've got such a good community built up to make it work. The night before I experienced the train, they invited me over for dinner, and it was just a wonderful experience. You walk in the room, and there's a group of railroaders done for the day, enjoying the finest 2 years old and watching train porn, black and white footage of Australia's finest steam engines in action on the TV, while enjoying a home-cooked meal. It's just the perfect vibe.
It is, and people who come because they really want to be part of it, and there's a lot of people that come off the street and end up as firemen, and eventually they'll be steam drivers as well. So I want to say that we help people make dreams come true. So that's the other part. Like, we often think, why on earth would you want to do this job? It's filthy, I'm covered in oil, it's long days, and it's hard work. It's hard manual labour in a time when most people are just doing computery kind of work. And the answer to that is simply because they've always had this lifelong passion for steam or for heritage, and they want to see it happen. And this is a place where you can actually come and get qualified and be part of that reality.
Well, I come from a railway family. all my brothers were all drivers. My dad was a driver, my grandfather was a shunner, great-grandfather was a driver, so I had no hope I was going to be a driver. Ended up being a driver at Everleigh and we got involved with starting the Lachlan Valley Railway out of Cowra, and we bought the 59 class, which is in Goulburn, and that sort of like captured us for the rest of the time. We kept working on the engines, and we set up Cowra, and then this has really gone from the Lachlan Valley Railway to what it is today.
And it's a bit of a family affair for you as well.
It is. The whole idea is that, I'm breeding the whole train. So I've got, a driver, and I'll have a fireman, and, down the track. So that's not how it started. So obviously, I started off at the Zigzag Railway, and even from a very young age, I've always loved trains. And so from the moment I could walk, I used to run down to the end of the platform and say to the driver, "Can I have a ride on the runaround?" And they used to say, "Yeah, sure, hop up." And so that's where I learnt to drive a number 4 brake valve, and then later on the A6 CT. And I didn't even know that such modern things like 26L even existed until I was well and truly grown up. But it was through that organisation Zigzag that I was really led to believe in myself and follow that passion, because no one ever said to me, "Oh, you're just a girl." They just said, "Yeah, here's the shovel, go for it. If you can't shovel up the hill, then you don't get to do it again." So you just try and you keep on doing it. And eventually I became a driver at 21 at Zigzag, driving diesel and steam. And it was only natural, I think, that my children sort of followed that passion. So all 5 kids were pretty much almost born on the footplate, but not. And none of them fell out. I just want to tell you, that's not how it works. There's no shaking of baby out. They've always loved trains. So Jamela, my oldest, she's also a train driver now. And then I've got 4 more, all boys, and they're all train-related names. So Bayer, Loxley, Tascott and Macca. And to one extent or another, they're all roped into helping or volunteering and just being a part of it, because I think it's important in this day and age to build up really strong communities. And I think we've done that here.
After I finished interviewing Simone and Paul, I was getting ready to head back for the day. That is, until Paul said, "Why don't you go along with the lads on the 3rd run and take it for a bit of a drive?" Never ask, never say no. I had imagined that when I was going to go to Australia, I was probably going to get to run something somewhere with the people that I knew and where they were plugged in, but a steam locomotive with wheels taller than me at 50 miles an hour out on the middle of the Australian network was not what I had imagined in the slightest. On the way up and out of Canberra on the 3rd run, Paul, one of Picnic Train's fine mechanical folks, was the driver. They had done some work to the oil burning arrangement and wanted to really put the engine to the test, which was just proper good fun to watch and listen to. Spirited driving, as they said. After Paul was satisfied, he had me swap him spots for a bit, and he coached me on running the R class on this alignment.
You driven a, you worked a 37 breakdown before?
Huh?
You driven a breakdown one this before?
Yes, actually.
Like to get a minimum application?
Minimum out. Okay.
No, not yet.
Okay.
We'll roll up to about 45.
About 45 at a minimum. Sail off the engine.
We got off the hill, and he had me put the throttle on the ceiling.
Gently start easing the regulator all the way open. Bring it another turn back.
remember looking over at the speedo, and it's bang on 80 kilometers per hour, 50 miles an hour. I look to the left. The wind is so violent past the cab window, it's trying to throw my engineer's hat off. Watching the scenery whip by, there was this moment where I had to sit there and just go, oh my god, can I go back to running 10 miles an hour after this? Words cannot do that experience justice.
Run it all the way out, we're gonna drift.
And bring it back up to around 10 on that drifting gauge.
About 10 on the drifting gauge.
The gauge up here?
Yeah, yep.
Get it out the back here, put it around 5, 10. I'll move.
Now we're just going to kind of ride that effective down the hill.
Yeah, sweetie, come on.
Get that grey haze.
Alright, it's in the black. I wish we had those. That's bloody brilliant. You just have to guess. Alright, go for it.
Down the hill, Alex. Ready to go. Okay, get that grey haze though. Bring out of my
Small from me to here.
I've never, before today, I've never been in the cab of a steam engine doing more than 20 mile an hour, let alone 80 kph. That was a treat. Yeah.
It's about 40 miles an hour, I think.
Yeah, right about, yeah. If we get up to 80, it's 50. Yeah.
The R class was fun to run. Despite the throttle going in an entirely different direction that I'm used to, it actually felt remarkably similar to 491s. I feel unbelievably blessed and utterly spoiled that I had this opportunity, and I can't thank all of the folks at the picnic train enough for the experience. It was truly a highlight of anything I've ever experienced in my 30-some years on this planet.
Oh, look, the best part is seeing all the kids, the looks on their faces. You blow the whistle, they come up and have a look at the engine, and they go, they're so enthused by the steam and the people. You give a wave and the whole station erupts in the people waving back at you. It just brings that happy feeling to everyone, I think, and that's the best part of the whole thing.
I'm not going to say eating scones with jam and cream because I'm the one that has to make them. But I think one of my favourite parts anyway is like when you're driving, either 59 or the R class, whatever, it doesn't matter, but when you're driving over a really scenic piece of track and you've got, the sun or the wind in your hair and it's just like you and the machine, and it's just fantastic. I really love that feeling of galloping up a hill or just going along, and it's just, I don't know, I really enjoy that part about it. The other part I really love, I think, is the meeting together with friends. So we volunteer together and we just fall into friendships. It's quite natural, and we spend a lot of time together. We go away, we know everything about each other, and I really love meeting, I don't know, up with everybody. Like, it's just like a big family get together. A large dysfunctional family get together.
The best kind, the large dysfunctional family that's wrapped around a steam train.
The picnic train crew were an absolute delight, every one of them. The experience they provide is fantastic for everyone involved, whether you're on the footplate, in the carriages, or on the wayside. If you haven't ridden behind Australia's Nomadic train, you best put it on your bucket list. I know that once wasn't enough for me. I didn't get to see the 59 class run, and I've been told that death by coal scoop at 50 miles an hour is the experience of a lifetime. Perhaps next time. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I did. Huge thanks to Simone and Paul for having me out, for Rex for being my host in Oz, and for us getting to do meat spice railroading together, to Lucas for taking me gunseling, to Paul and Alex for being wonderful instructors on the footplate, and last but not least, to Tascott for telling me to put the GoPros everywhere on the engine, and to Macca for being a fan. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch y'all next time.